Welcome back to We Time Convo. I'm Liza, and joining me today is my fantastic repeat guest host, Dawn Marie. We are going to explore the intriguing clash between scripted TV shows and the unpredictability of reality TV and regular television. To help us unpack this topic, I am thrilled to welcome Marita.
Hey, excited to be here. Thanks.
It's going to be a fascinating conversation, so stay tuned as we dive into the drama, the authenticity, and everything in between.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for listening, and we are back. Thank you to our physics gravity guru, Marita.
Astronomy.
Yeah.
Yes. Hello.
Marita, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you back on our second season.
Yes, I'm happy and so excited. And congratulations to everyone for making it to a second season.
Thank you. And then I have Dawn Marie, my guest co-host and repeat guest.
Yay.
So today's going to be an interesting topic. We are going to talk about reality TV or TV shows versus real life.
Yes, because that's super important to compare.
Yeah, like kids don't watch TV and think it's real. There's a lot of things that aren't.
Or I would say no more kids. Kids don't watch TV as much, but the adults watch it.
Yes.
We're still hooked on TV shows and stuff.
Just TV shows, and then even like little news clips and little reels on social media about what it's like in certain professions. I feel like you're just getting a tiny snippet, and and people think that that's the reality of that's what their job is like all the time.
Yeah. I've definitely held court by accident at other people's kids' birthday parties who are not in education. And then they start asking me questions and I'm like, oh, I thought everybody had the same information or were this aware of their kids in high school or elementary school, and they're not. So it is eye-opening about that. Like their perceived, what they get their information from is not the reality of it.
And what they think, well, we're both teachers, so what they think we do, what they think our everyday life is like, what they think what we do and don't take home. It's surprising, like, oh wow, you do all that? I'm like, yes, that's what I do.
Because it's not from their TV show watching and their reality for their history. It's So,
I don't watch much these days, other than junk TV, like dating reality shows. Like I love Love is Blind. I do love like The Office and Abbott Elementary. I don't think I've watched they just started a new season, but I haven't watched that.
I've watched that.
I love Abbott Elementary.
I now appreciate the writing on it way more than I thought I would. Yeah.
I mean, definitely. I mean, in my experience, there's a lot of scripted TV, right? Because they want to make it entertaining. They definitely take it over the top, but there's like nuggets of things that happen on Elementary that I see that happening.
Like their PD Day episode was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to be there. And they're like, why are we here?
Who's listening?
Yeah.
Yes, nobody really wants to be there.
Yeah. How truthful is that? Yeah. To you teachers? Because I'm not a teacher, but I do work at the school.
Oh, yeah. The PD days across the board have been, I think when you're a young teacher, you're like, oh my God, this meeting and get information and try to apply it. And then now being a veteran teacher, I don't know about you, it's, oh, this is another thing to add to my plate. You're not really helping me how to include it. I have 15 million other things I need to be doing. Why am I here? This is not very helpful. And it's sometimes I've been at the school I'm at for a very long time now. So the PDs are completely different, but we used to hire specialists to come in.
That's what's missing. I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
And the specialists used to run some of the PDs that we had and everything. So professional development. So more training to, on how to be efficient in the classroom or help certain students out. And
it can also mean police department.
Yeah. You see the police more than we do actually being up front.
I do.
So that's a little different. Yeah. That's another thing that never happens on the shows. I never had that in high school per se, but that never shows up on the shows about how much the cops have to come out to the school for little infractions and stuff. So it's like no one's really committing a heinous crime or anything. And we used to have SROs on campus. So officers.
Which are officers, campus officers.
Yeah, campus officers. And they just handled all the little things. And then once COVID happened, we decided that was a budget cut and we routed that money that was going towards them.
It was
So
more
that's
than
never in the shows.
But it was more than just COVID. It was like a response to the idea about having police officers on campus. Are our students criminals? That it gives them the impression, you know what I mean? That feeling of, there was that sort of general nationwide, like, why do you have police officers on campus? These are kids. And so there should be a healthy balance between, like, you know, depending on what a school situation is, because sometimes you definitely need a police officer on campus. But yeah, now we have the campus supervisors that are supposed to be another adult connection. So
Ours are pretty fun.
the kids love them. Yeah. The kids love them. But getting back to the PD stuff and like the Abbott Elementary, right? So I think that like definitely the spectrum of teachers where you've got, like Don Marie's mentioning out, you've got that new teacher that's excited and the old teachers. It's like because we're the veteran teachers. I'm I'm over 20 years now.
Yeah.
So like when Barbara and what's the red haired character's name? I don't know. Barbara and
she got like some mafia thing going on.
Yeah. Their little snide remarks during PD is oftentimes thoughts I feel like most of us veteran teachers have. And the most common one is like, this is the same damn thing. You just put a new name on it, you know, and they make all these comments, right? So I find that that's true. I don't think that we all hang out together during the school day as much as these shows do. Like,
oh my gosh. Right? Yeah. They hang out all the time.
It's like we can go like several days and we don't see each other.
Oh yeah.
Right.
No, for everything.
And we have the same prep.
Yeah. Or just when the students ask like, oh, well, don't you hang out with blah, blah, blah? When would I have time to hang out with anybody? The times I see people are during certain IEP meetings or 504s, or if you're on certain committees and stuff. But there's a whole group of people I do feel bad. Like I haven't extended myself and we're coworkers, but we're in such different, the beast of running and doing everything. So that part I think doesn't help create unity of how to actually share and grow materials and such. So that I have asked our admin like, hey, let's mix this up. Let's mix up the people, because you have to force me now to meet someone. Not that I don't want to see them, but get in the groove. Even with Abbott Elementary, when they introduced, she was on, what's it called? The spinoff from the Cosby Show when they went to college.
Oh yes, Soleil Moon. But
she's the librarian now.
Yeah, the librarian.
She does a great job during the Halloween episode.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, there's somebody new that's really pertinent to the campus, and we don't get to see her. They're starting to show her a little bit more. Same thing, like we have a new college and career advisor. I know her because she was a parent of my students, but I wouldn't have gotten to really see her if Liza didn't invite me out to hang out with her and get to know her.
And I have no idea what she looks like. And she's already sent me a couple emails. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that part's weird about our jobs where we don't get to onboard people that way of like, hey, you really need to meet. That's why I brought like one of my other guys in my department to the main office the other day to meet the new registrar. Cause I'm like, hey, I can't be the only one talking about that. And like the being up in everybody's business is not that real either.
And it's not.
And then I don't know how long the Abbott Elementary school teachers' lunch periods are, but they're always leaving campus for lunch. Like, oh, I went to go grab this. And maybe because they're supposed to be in the heart of Philadelphia. And so that they're down, like to me, it seems like it takes place like downtown San Jose. Yeah. So like maybe the next restaurant is like a 10-minute walk. But even then, like our lunch periods are half an hour. There's no way anybody can go somewhere and get lunch and come back and still eat their lunch.
Yeah. So I think in Abbott Elementary, Janine's character, her mom in real life was a teacher. So this is where she pulls a lot of information and things from.
Isn't she like a producer or the creator of it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So that part. And then like the principal.
Ava.
I love her character. She is so much fun.
Have we ever had a principal just like her though?
No,
but I would love to have someone that ballsy and just saying things and everything. The other thing with the shows, like I feel like they get away with more sexual harassment where that would not fly in our workplace and stuff. Yeah. Granted, I know everybody gets in the groove and knowing each other and just like we're playful with each other. But if someone really that all the shows have something we're like, oh my God, you guys just crossed a line so much. We would totally get in trouble for.
Well, speaking of that, that's like The Office. I don't know if you guys watch The Office.
Oh, yeah.
But like you watch it and you're like, okay, if that stuff happened in The Office now, no way.
Jim and Dwight's whole relationship.
Yeah, that would be bullying.
Yeah, like they had like that diversity day episode where they had to wear like they had to put something on their forehead and they had to guess each other's ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
And then there was one part where I forgot what he said, but he said something like, oh no, he had Asian right here. And then Pam was like, okay, think of somebody that isn't a very good driver. And he's like, oh man, am I a female?
But that was supposed to be the play, right? Of like stereotypes and everything. Yeah, there's no way we could get away with any of that in the work environment. Or I think we would call each other out now more so. I think it would be really great how Ava, the principal, and Abbott, if we had a little bit of that totally being blasé to everybody else just to get something done and everything. On the last couple of episodes, they got kickback computers because someone's building a golf course nearby. And so I've run into this where I want to buy something in tech and they're like, oh, you can't buy that because we need to make sure it's compatible with all our other networks stuff. And we have to make sure that no one can crash it and get into it. I'm like, I just want a TV to teach and project images. I got to go through 1,500 things. And that's what she was going through. So the IT guy, they were all thinking he was very hot and cute and she wasn't seeing it. And then he and her kind of have a moment. And so now the IT guy is going to be coming under the table to do things because he saw like, oh, you guys don't have the resources. Because she was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes so my kids and my teachers can have the bare basics. Yeah. So some of that gumption, we have to go by the book for the finances and stuff. But sometimes you're like, why do I have to? Education, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops just to get like a pencil or pen sometimes.
Well, Liza knows all about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
we every time we have to fill out a purchase request and she's got to like approve them. And there's all these forms we have to fill out just to buy something from Amazon.
Yeah. Or the kids coming back when they're sick. Like you sent a kid home because they're sick. And then one of the episodes, the mom's like, no, I'm not having my kid come back from the 1 to the 2. And then 3 o'clock's when you can send them back to me. It was like this really cute little.
No, I saw she's like, I'm not the 1 or the 2. You can send them back at 3 or something. Yeah.
And
That's cute.
It was cute. But there's definitely times where kids have come to school. I'm like, you're beyond sick. Like this isn't a little sniffle. You are like, yeah, you need to go home. And parents have fought about that. Or I've definitely had kids throw up. And we're like, okay, you gotta go home. And they're like, no, I just got it out. I'm fine. I was like, hey, we don't know what's going on with you. Really go home for the rest of the day. It's okay. And
that's the other thing, right? So like on these TV shows, like the lead character, like the lead teacher, like they get really involved in one student's life, like going to their home. I'm like, we would report something to an administrator and then someone else would take care of doing a home visit. Like teachers don't go visit students' homes to check on them. That would be like a big no.
Oh yeah. I avoid when I run into them in big groups just because I'm like, want to have that space and everything. But yeah, we're not doing home visits. Admin's doing that. And then knowing a lot about the parents. Yeah. I know we're at the high school level, but there's no way I would deep dive into like knowing so much about the parents and everything like that.
And that's the balance between like, because my kids go to the school that I teach at. And so I do know parents that have kids at our school. And there's like you have to like balance like, how much you expose yourself to those people because it can get kind of dicey. At a past principal, like I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. So I was at a field hockey game and I saw the parent of a kid and I literally was just talking to that parent and like, oh, how's she doing? I'm like, oh, she's doing great. She did really great on that last thing. Right. And some other parent was sitting nearby and I apparently got upset because I didn't say anything about her kid, but I didn't recognize who she was. And so then I got to talking to like, you really need to be careful about what you say, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, here I am thinking I'm like, establishing a relationship with the parent to let them know that, yes, I know who your kid is and that kind of thing. So I got like a finger shaked at me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm closed off. Unless you were my friend before your kid came to the high school, I really can't be that close to you because of that. So yeah.
Crazy. So moving on, let's talk about like the medical.
Oh yes.
Do you guys watch any of the medical? I used to watch House.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it.
Well, House is on next level specialized medical doc, I would think. And like ER.
ER is so old though, but yeah.
All the medical shows.
But you know, there's like
What about Grey's Anatomy?
Scrubs. I don't watch Grey's, but Scrubs
Scrubs.
is hilarious.
Scrubs is hilarious. That was like one of my favorite shows. But how truthful it is to reality, I don't know.
I feel like the thing that really just is frustrating with these TV shows is how quickly people recover from these serious illnesses, like a person with a gunshot wound, and then they're up and at 'em, like, you know, less than 3 hours from when they were. Those are usually the crime dramas.
Yeah.
But this, you know, like, or like we just saw how fast it took to, you know, find a cure for COVID, right? Or a treatment for COVID. But you see all those like outbreak movies and like they find these cures in less than 24 hours. That's kind of hard to.
That, or also the patients' families now knowing people who've very much gone through an illness, them not showing how much strain that puts on the family and what that has to do. I think that's a disservice. They could possibly do a whole reality show on what's going on with the people's families, getting resources, everybody pitching in, because they just show like a crying spouse or kids missing mommy or something like that. But that whole emotional toll of like, yeah, people stop going to their jobs to take care of their loved one in the hospital, that thing.
Oh my God.
Well, that's what we were like, my little research before we came here. Like we were coming up with like what kind of questions, like you've seen some of these episodes where like, well, I can just do a tracheotomy with a straw.
Yeah.
You know, is that
they were doing trachs on the like side of the road, like it's raining outside. I'm like, now knowing about how much stuff needs to be sterilized and everything, like, oh my God. No,
You get sepsis now?
Yeah.
Like you just brought me to life and now I have sepsis.
Yeah.
And I was just saying like, yeah, like Doogie Howser. Like, would you really walk into a hospital and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to let this 10-year-old looking kid like diagnose me?
Yeah. Or Edie Falco from The Sopranos. She had a show on Showtime. She was a nurse. And I asked my other nurse friends about it because she was a drug addict nurse on the show. Now the whole thing with the pills and being dispensed, they do have that where it's really like they program this machine and it just kicks out the certain amount of pills for Liza and stuff. So no one can just sneak some medication into their pockets and everything. That part was interesting to find out. I'm like, how many? And she's like, you'd be surprised how many people in the medical field are hooked on certain drugs and things. So that would be that would be a spinoff of the reality show. But how many of the doctors and nurses are really high on some of the medications that they're doling out to their patients is...
There's a whole new other thing.
Yeah.
I'm all Dr. Bavone, where are you at? Like, I'm just gonna debunk this.
You know, also the TV shows, like there's not a lot of like doctor reality shows, but like the actual medical shows they have, it always, when I was doing my little research, they portray all the doctors like they can do everything. Like they're in ER, they're in surgery. That's not really how the medical field works. They're specialists. Like, you know, we go to Kaiser, like you go to one doctor who's just going to check your general health. And then if they decide there might be something wrong with, I don't know, your circulatory system, they're going to send you to a specialist, right? So that like there isn't one doctor who's a jack of all trades, and television doctors are portrayed that way, that they can do all the procedures, you know?
And they're also in a good mood and very focused on your person. Cause now we all have stories of people probably who've had a mishap in the medical, in the hospital getting sepsis and stuff like that. I would say that also, even though there's shows about nurses, how much the nurses actually are more beneficial than the actual doctors. They network, they will tell you honestly, this doctor.
They know the patient more.
Yeah.
They're seeing the patient more. They know what doctors are more compatible maybe with your personality and stuff. They were very helpful when I was trying to figure out who to pick to be my OBGYN. Like I would not pick her. I would pick this one for a reason. And they're not supposed to, but it's helpful. It's like shopping and networking. I need different vendors, like I love information and then let me decide. So I think that's only one of the downfalls with reality is how much the nurses are actually and the receptionists too at the front, they know everything too, like how much they're the actual backbone of the hospitals because nothing would get done without them at all.
And fun fact, not all doctors look hot. Like they don't look like Patrick Dempsey or whoever the other doctors are.
Right. Eric LaSalle from like ER.
Yeah.
And George Clooney was on ER.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All the ones I've seen are old. So,
or that, and it's a false thing too to think they're all wealthy.
Or they all sleep with their nurses.
Yeah.
Or each other.
Or each other. Yeah. Like Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah. That part too about everything being, though we do have a lot of couples at work, that being too, like, we all just hang out with each other, like you said, the break room, or they all go out drinking every Thursday together.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. Everybody's got lives, or they all really, it is true though, some of us have like extreme hobbies that you'll find out later, like, oh, well, that's why you're not around. You're doing this and everything. How do you decompress and everything? Or the hard-hitting cases of some of the kids and students, how much that affects you. And even the ER stuff, no one at all teaches you the psychology of how much it plays on you finding out certain information about kids, or even the medical realm. Like, we're mandated court reporters. No one tells you how hard it is to know that, though, about a kid or their parents. Like, that's a false. I would sit down to anybody who wants to go into the profession and go like, these are the times I've been broken, was hearing and finding out about this kid. Like,
or having to report yourself about something, and then like you can't unlearn that. And, and then as our job, we're not, like, we're just supposed to report it. We're not supposed to investigate it. And then you don't ever know what happens afterwards. So then you have this like weight that you carry this with you your whole entire time. So like there have been a couple of things I've had to report that I'm like, I wonder what's going on with those kids. I still worry about them, even if they're not at our school anymore. I'm like, I don't know what happened.
That sounds so heavy.
I don't think anybody has ever really talked about that turnaround of how you're supposed to behave after you've reported it. You know it. You just want to make sure everybody's okay, but you have to let things unfold a certain way. But you carry it very much so. And that part, anybody going into this profession, I was like, it's not about the worksheets and the lesson plans at all.
It goes way deeper.
Yeah. We're more therapists and psychologists about how to turn somebody on into the subject matter and how to keep them motivated into it, and then how to help them also process their own emotions and feelings about life.
And we all talk about them. We don't say my students, we say my kids. Yeah. Because that's how attached we get to them. Even the ones that are the most challenging, we still like, I have a kid that was really challenging for me last year. Yeah. And they come see me, and it's like, I don't know. It was like, man, I remember you're so hard, and that you still come back. I'm like, I love it though. It just means that, okay, yes, I did make a connection with that kid. And so that's the part of like what I like about like Abbott Elementary is that they do make connections with their kids, and they that it can be that way. It can be that fulfilling relationship about, yes, the kid sees me as a trusted adult. They want to say hi to me. I love that part.
Yeah, that part is very cute. Well, and they get to be with little ones, so they're a little bit more fun and entertaining about. You're like, oh my God, you were paying attention, even though I didn't think you were, and some of the stuff they say. So now they have one kid who's the only white kid in the school, and the principal, Ava, calls him the ghost and stuff.
Oh, I remember that. Yes, that was so funny.
So I'm like he was the Black Panther for Halloween, and they're just keep the mask on.
That is hilarious.
Because he comes to the door, and they're like, oh, who are you? Because they can't tell. And then he lifts it up, and they're like, yeah, keep that mask on and go. Yeah. So that reverse, yes. I don't know how to word that. And
stereotype, reverse stereotype.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, there's some levity. Like, some of our kids have a great sense of humor and things. And like, oh, I wish I could show that more often, where some of them get like our banter and joking around. So when they show it on a TV show, it's like, sometimes there's glimpses of that.
I need to catch this season.
It's good. It's good. And then didn't one of the kids dress up like Janine, and she doesn't recognize herself?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that's scary. And I'm like, that's you.
That's hilarious. I need to watch it. So let's talk dating reality shows. I was just telling Marita, do you watch Love is Blind?
I haven't watched Love is Blind. I've watched, I know what it's all about. Yeah. I just haven't engrossed me. So you.
Well, I was just telling Marita, I'm like, okay, the whole concept of like getting to know somebody without seeing them, it's a good dating concept. But I mean, I've watched Love is Blind maybe like a few seasons now, and it's like, it doesn't matter because everybody that they pick is good looking.
Well, the producers pick.
Yeah, they're not going to pick somebody that's ugly or, ugly, but not good looking.
No, they're trying to sell ratings.
Exactly. Right. So I'm just like, no, love isn't blind, because whoever you're going to get is going to be good looking.
Right.
Well, go ahead.
And then I said that reminded me of, like, for us Gen Xers, the dating game. And that same thing. It's like, it's the premise is, they stuck more a little bit to the premise about Love is Blind, because you would have a person who is interested in finding someone to go out on a date, and the show would pay for their date. And they interviewed 3 candidates.
Yeah.
So they'd say bachelors or 3 bachelorettes, and they couldn't see them. There was a wall. So it was really a half-hour show about them having conversations, interviewing, asking silly questions and then some serious questions. And then the person that's looking for a date would pick the one person they felt the better connection with, right? But Love is Blind, it's like you already know what they look like, and then you sit in separate rooms. Oh, no, they don't know what they look like.
No, they don't. They don't know.
We know what they look like.
We know what they look like.
But they don't know what they look like.
Oh, that's right. I forget.
Same thing about the dating game. It's the same thing about online dating. You might see a picture. You just don't know what it is. And how great it is, like, your imagination's running with all this. And even though they have notebooks, right, and they're writing down responses, you really don't know what a person is until they've had a bad day. Like, they're all dressed up. They're all gussied up. They're relaxed in the atmosphere. It's not like, hey, I got to try and figure out how to get my daughter, on the other side of the house so I can have a conversation because I don't know you and I want to figure this out type of thing. So that hyped up. The not reality show. Well, what I think they are. The Indian Matchmaker. I'll watch that.
I love that one.
Hilarious. And then the Jewish Matchmaker, because I like their psychology and how they might give somebody same thing. Like, Liza, here's 3 guys. These are why I think they're good from the criteria you gave me. But then you go out with them and then we see how unrealistic your view is, because you're like, I want him to have like 6 figures and be 6 foot tall and da-da-da. And the matchmaker's like, this is not reality.
Well, and she always says, she's like, I'm not going to pick somebody that has every single thing on your list. And it's ridiculous. It's like, they got to have blue eyes. They can't have, I don't know, more than 10 fingers. And they got to have good looking toes.
Well,
and it's
the whole
like,
finger
really,
part, yeah.
They got to be in good health, just like it's, they can only have type 2 diabetes, not type 1. No gout. Everybody knows my list now. You can't have gout. You can't.
But they're so interesting because it's a third party kind of going, like, for the Indian Matchmaker, it's more about, like, I love when they do the astrology and they like read the charts. I'm like, does that really work? So I kind of want to meet the couples afterwards. I'm like, did this really work for you? Because I get it. Some people get in their own way about what's going on and everything. Everybody needs a coach, and for every part of your life, finances, this, that, or the other. But it's always amazing how humbling it is when they're like, I was over the top with being so nitpicky, and then they just need to be knocked down a little bit.
I love how those shows sometimes, like, usually it's the woman that has like these, her list. And then she presents her with the, you're going to go, and then she like says, but everything else is on your list and you're going to pick that one thing. Why don't, give this person a chance? Like, she already, like the person she's trying to match with, does a quick, fast judgment about this person. She's like, but they tick all of these other things on your list and you're going to hold them to that. And a lot of times in my mind, it's very superficial.
Oh, yeah.
Holding them to, like, oh, well, he's not tall, but he's still good in my mind, but he's still good looking. He still ticks off all these other boxes. So because he's not a certain height, you're going to nope. Like,
going into dating, I used to be the same. I'm like, look, this guy needs to be 6 feet tall. He needs to, be Latino or white. Just had this specific criteria. He needs to have a good job. You go out dating and you realize, like, it's not even about the criteria anymore. It's about the connection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And like, I've dated, like, the guys that I've dated were completely opposite. They were freaking short. They were Asian, but like, we had the best connection. So like, sometimes you just don't stick with that criteria, like, you kind of gotta lower your. And
I think that with like the reality shows like Love is Blind and such, like, they might go in still with that, but that's the whole premise, right? That they're just talking and trying to extract more things from them and figure out on a little bit deeper level and not so superficial, but it's still like someone's producing a show. So it's somewhat superficial. Even I started just a little bit looking at the Golden Bachelorette. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. There's Bachelor and Bachelorette.
But there's a golden one.
Yeah, golden one.
And they still had men in their 60s wavering and like, I don't know. I don't think I can do this. And I'm like, oh my God, if I have to hear that again from somebody else's mouth, like, I like you, but not like that. I'm like, holy crap. She had 40 men and they're in their, or 20 men, right? In their 60s. She dwindled it down and it was just a couple.
That's why they're still bachelors.
Yeah. And still staggering about like that. I'm like, what else you got going for you? You guys are going to die here soon. Like,
Yeah. Hey, wait, my husband's almost 60.
yeah, but you're already together. You're not saying like this person who has all these qualities and he's not saying it to you. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go.
No.
Yeah. So that part's always interesting, how we think there's always going to be more time and fish in the pond.
And because that they're older, they're more mature and more, they just
or know
more
themselves.
Yeah.
And like, why did you go on the show if you thought you weren't going to, especially at that age? It's one thing if you're in your 20s and you're like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll get my 15 minutes of fame. I'm suspecting these guys in their 60s are not looking for their 15 minutes of fame. Like they're not going to be making a career out of going on reality shows. Like one of the girls who didn't make it, she's on Dancing with the Stars right now. So she has a spinoff. These guys don't. Like,
yeah.
What are you guys doing here, guys?
Have you guys watched that show Nobody Wants This on
No,
Netflix?
what is that?
Have you seen it? It's with Kristen Bell. And
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the Jewish.
Yeah.
So she meets a rabbi. She's a shiksa, right? That's the word, where she's
not Jewish.
Not Jewish. And so they happen to go to a dinner party. They start to flirt. He's like, I like you, you like me. And he's a rabbi at a synagogue. And they're like, you can't be with her because she's not Jewish. And they start dating. It's actually based off a true story.
Yeah, and she has a podcast, but all she talks about is like her single dating life. And it's such a good show. I think that it portrays reality a little bit better because, rom-coms, it's like they're both perfect and they like fall in love, right? And then that's the end of the story. But like she even says, she's like, I have issues. Like I'm insecure, like I'm a little bit delusional or whatever. And he's just like, well, I can handle it. But he's Jewish and they kind of just figure out like, I just feel like it's, and like if you actually watch it and like listen to like what she's gone through, dating and everything, I kind of can relate to it.
Yeah.
Right. Cause I think she's like older age too. And,
yeah.
She finally finds somebody, but it's like, he's Jewish and she's, he really wants her to convert. Because he's a rabbi and it's a good show.
Mm-hmm.
You should watch it.
I will definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's a short watch. Each episode is like 30 minutes and there's like 10 episodes.
And who's the main character? He's from, was it?
OC? Is he from the OC? He's from one of those shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sweetheart guy. But it also started then all these young rabbis are like, yeah, please don't come after us.
I know. I was like, man, I'm gonna go hang out at a synagogue or something right now.
I would totally date a Jewish guy. Just because of watching the Jewish Matchmaker and what the family unit, like they all had each other's back. They were just like, his mom's like, hey, I don't want this because she's not Jewish, but people can convert. And I think I have one high school friend who did. Going to a Catholic school, that was a big.
We had, same thing. There was like 3 Jewish kids that attended our Catholic school.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, but that relayed into great. Yeah. You see them both like, maybe this isn't for us. Maybe everybody's trying to pull us apart and stuff. And I definitely had relatives that went through that too. Granted, they're a lot older now, where they weren't able, like their family's like, well, they're not Greek. You can't, or he's not Italian. So don't bring him around or whatever. I'm like, wow. People still say that and not seeing that that's still a thing. And so that was a little eye-opening. And even the Jewish matchmaker, them going through their whole criteria about where specifically their family came from is a big deal. Or even in India, where geographically your family came from.
What language they like.
Yeah. I was like, wow, you guys are super nitpicky about that, which is fine for them. I was just more eye-opening. Like, oh, here we're worried about a job and health conditions, and they're really worried about language and what section of the country they came from.
I remember, so it's been a long time, but when I was dating in college, and I actually just like, if I have a connection with you, I find you, that makes me attracted to you, and I'm going to date you. So I've dated all different kinds: Filipino, Mexican, Black, white, right? And so but never Guamanian, right? And my dad would say, I would love for you to date a nice Guamanian boy. And I'd be like, you know what, Dad? They're all related to me.
Yeah,
so I don't know,
true.
right?
Or they might be, and you don't know.
Like we're all pretty much cousins at some point because every time, that's true. I'm like, so I'm like, and that's not a priority for me. I'm like, it would be nice to share that aspect of our culture, but at the same time, it's like, my dad would make a big deal about it. My mom and dad. And I'm like, well, everybody I'm meeting is a cousin, so I don't know what you want me to do about that. So.
Yeah, and that part, but. with that show, I think it's David Foster's daughter who really met a rabbi. He's the producer for like Celine Dion and Whitney Houston and everything. Like, yeah, you have a worldly daughter who's been everywhere, and she met a Jewish guy in LA and really fell in love, hopefully, and all that. Like, they're gonna have a second season now.
It's such a good show.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fun episode, guys.
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming on. I feel like we could just keep going on and on, because now I'm thinking like, 90 Day Fiance. Like, like we need to have the second part.
Insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That turnaround.
Well, thank you guys for listening.
Thanks.
Thank you.